Okay guys, welcome to the stream. We're going to start a minute early, and that's because I want to answer a couple of questions here. Right, so let's look at the chat. Having a look at basic level setup. Da, 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 da. Right, yeah, upgrades. It's not just the upgrade itself, right? It's the way our maps were built, okay, which is causing us a problem. And to be fair, I haven't had a look at that type of stuff, right? The games I've done before was like one map, was one level, never a problem. It just basically loaded it and that was it, right? I never did level streaming, none of my games required it. So it was just something I don't know about, right? Next one. One quick question, any chance you would stream at 1080p? Funnily enough, I already do, right? But the problem is that my actual development screen is in 4K, okay? Now, I keep trying to get people to remind me, and once I open a project, I'll show you, right? But you can do something to make it slightly better for you guys to see. So I'm going to do that today. I'll remember about that. Foreign island, working on a huge project that requires a lot of patience. Any project requires a lot of patience, right? So fully understand that. Sunbuster, it won't take you the rest of your life. It just takes a little bit of time. Just learning a bit at a time. Right, I didn't start Unreal Engine and knew everything from the start. Right, I basically, here's what I did, right? I built a project of an old game that I liked, right? That was basically back in the 16-bit days. And what I did was I updated it to look good in Unreal Engine while retaining most of the gameplay elements, right? And I just learned how to do everything, right? So if you just start at the start and just gradually build up what you can do, then you'll get there, right? So as a mark of my patience, right, what I literally done was, I'll show you here. I'll have to show you, probably best showing you the web page, right? Once it opens up. Right. Now, there's a few things that give it away here, right? This is my previous game on Steam, right? Now, the interesting thing is, I wanted high scores, this here, right? Now, the thing is, I was doing it in Unreal Engine 4.26, okay? And the thing is that this particular asset to do the high scores was only available in 4.25. So literally I had to basically rewrite the whole thing because you cannot downgrade. You know how when you upgrade from like 4.25 to 4.26, you'll have a couple of problems, but that'll be it, right, that you need to address? Well, if you actually go down a level, if you downgrade, it won't do it at all. You basically have to do the whole thing. So literally, this project, which I was doing to get on Steam, I had to rewrite in a week. Creating a brand new project and doing the whole thing all over again. And I basically sat there for a week, 14 hours a day, just copying and pasting code. Right, now the thing about it is when you downgrade, you can copy the nodes from one project to another, but they don't join up. So you have to reconnect every node. Okay, so patience point number 1. Took me a week to just sit there and go through a whole project, a whole game, and rewrite the whole thing. That's why it's called FTD2, by the way, because FTD1 was in 4.26. FTD2 is actually in 4.25. Okay, interesting story. Point number 2, right, we can show this again, and this is because I'm a lazy bugger and I didn't get enough sales to make it worth the bother, right? But if you look at certain screenshots, probably not that one, right? But look at this one. Notice, look at the trees and look at the grass and stuff, right? And then look at this. Basically, this was done after it came out. I redid every single level with a new set of assets, right? You can see the trees here are the kind of standard trees, whereas these are much more cartoony. You've now got water, you've now got buildings with smoke and fiery chickens and all sorts. So that also took me about a week. I had to go through every single level, delete everything out, and then replace it back in with the new, better kind of stylistic assets. Okay, so if you're talking about, I don't know if it's actually patience. It's like, if I'm given a roadmap of what I need to do, and it's very clear what I need to do, even if it seems like the most boring shit ever, I'm happy. I can sit there and do it, right? So, for example, for this project, what I'm trying to do is find, I'll show you this, I'll load it up, and then I'm going to show Sunbuster how you make it better for you guys to see it, right? So it doesn't look like 720p. Because you'll notice that we've got a 4.26 version of FTD, and then it goes down to 4.25 and becomes FTD2, right? So what I'm going to show you here is our problem, and this is where maybe for an island, if he's still here, can possibly help if he's got a little bit more knowledge about this than I have. As I said, I'm good at certain things and I know a lot about certain things, but this is one particular issue that I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. And I was actually considering watching a video today on the stream explaining world partitioning. Right, so did I open that? And I hope it doesn't do the shader shit. Now, for anybody that was watching the stream last night, literally about 5 minutes after I stopped the stream, it actually loaded, right? So it sat at about 3,000 shaders for God knows how long, and then it suddenly finished them all, right? But then I had to load the levels, and then the levels started loading shaders again, so that took about another hour. But then I had to amend the code for the Unreal Engine 5 solution, and I got that working, and basically it actually loads now in Unreal Engine 5.1.1. Okay, so I've actually got a working Groenland project in 5.1, but I'm going to show you what the problems are, okay? And I don't know how to resolve them yet, but we're going to have a look. Okay, so for the guys that are streaming and anybody says to you, oh, I can't see your screen, all the rest of it, okay, if you're using some weird resolution or whatever, as I said, I'm running it in 4K, right, on my development screen. So all you do is you go to Window, right, there isn't a, like, make everything bigger, like the font or whatever, okay? In Unreal Engine, there isn't that. So you can't do that. You can do it in Visual Studio, but you can't do it in Unreal Engine. So what you do is you go to Widget Reflector, then this is the application scale, and you just change this to whatever suits. In this case, I find about 1.3 to be good for you guys, right? That makes it a bit clearer for you guys. Now, it does have its disadvantages. Obviously, there's less things showing windows, you've got less space, but it's better for you guys. So I don't mind doing that, right? Now, let's talk about the level setup and how this is going to cause us a potential issue. Okay? If we look at our maps and we open our test map, this is like a standalone map, right? Which is the same as the main menu. It's a standalone map, right? Doesn't really need to stream or anything like that. So basically that's it, right? Self-contained, basically. And as I said, this isn't really a map anyway, it's just for me to muck about in, right? And work on mechanics and stuff, okay? No, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't cause a problem, really. Only if I'm doing a lot of stuff in blueprints and it's all tight together, which I discourage anyway. Give yourself as much space as possible. It doesn't cost you anything to use space in blueprints. And one of the things I've noticed about people that are new to Unreal Engine is they pack everything as tight as possible. Right? And there's just no reason to do it, okay? Like, for example, right, you will notice in mine, now, I don't know how this relates to maybe Foreign Island who's working on a project, right? But if you look at these, now, we discount these because these are just my test buttons, right? Which we just pack together. But for these, basically, I try to space everything out, right? You'll notice that nothing's overlapping each other. We've got straight lines, not too much complexity. If you get too much complexity, then write a function and make it simpler to read. Okay, so you'll notice that this type of thing, you know, easy to look at, easy to understand. It's just a series of things, not too much actual logic going on. You know, obviously there is going to be some logic there, which you can't avoid because basically you need logic, but it's done in as clear and simple a way as possible, right? This, I know, is a mess, but that's because I've not tidied it up, and it will be tidied up at some point. And that was because I was rewriting the level load stuff. Now this actually might end up becoming irrelevant, but anyway, and this stuff here is just for test buttons, for me to test things out, right? But once you get into the actual stuff, you'll notice it's very, very clear, spaced out, not packed together. And that's the opposite of what you see from people who are new to Unreal Engine. They tend to have things as close as possible, overlapping each other, and just basically a big mess. Okay? So, what's the issue? Well, my partner, who has been trying to do this, has been trying to move the maps across, right? Now, maybe somebody that's watching this will know exactly what to do, and this is why I'm explaining it very clearly, right? Because I don't know how to do it. My colleague has not really found an answer to it, or a simple one that works. But we can forget the main menu. Now, what we've got is the main map, right? Now, I kind of understand this part. This is the main map, and the main map is split off into sub-levels, okay? So when we load this up, you will see the persistent map, which is the main map, and then all the sub-levels, okay? So you can see it here. I'll drag this down a bit so that we can see it a bit better, right? So this is the persistent level, right? And all the things in this map will be persistent across every map. Okay, so this is like the top level map, and everything that appears in here will appear in every single other map, right? So you're talking about like weather, like your ocean, like your this is actually displacement, right? But you'll notice that you don't actually see any geometry, okay? And that's because the geometry for each individual level is stored in these, and these are individual levels, okay? So the best one to show you is actually the start. Right, now this is a level on its own, but this has also got sub-levels, right? And this is for streaming, okay? So you'll notice it's far, medium, near, far, medium, near. And this was a way that my colleague was trying to stream in levels and do it in an efficient manner, right? But if we load this, you will see that we load in the geometry. Okay? So we can zoom out and we can see that actually it's only got some of the geometry, like it's only got this little bit of the map here, right? Now this is actually where you start, right? So if any of you have watched this before, right, this is actually here is where you start, this point here, right? But you'll notice that I can show you here, if we zoom out, right, we can actually load in another map, right? And there's a cave section, right? And we can load that. And this will make it a bit more obvious that these are actually two different maps, right? Cause the caves, I think they're underneath. Somewhere. Apparently. Right, wait a minute. If we Right, there's visibility off. There's the caves there. Okay, so we've switched off the visibility of x3, y0. And this is actually another level, right? So you can like load and unload these. As you wish. Right, so that's nothing except a persistent map. Okay? And then basically we could, if we want, load another section. And that section's obviously away over here. Right? We can unload that. And then what you can do is you can do that, right? And then I think if you load right, that's the whole map, right? And that is showing you what sections each one is, right? So you've got x4, x5. So if we go to x3210, right, this is actually 30 here somewhere, right? So this is the world composition, but it's made up of levels within levels, right? So basically, if we loaded up, there's that level there, right? And then we can load that. So if we were wanting to look at this level here, x4, y4, we just press load, right? And that's this level way over here. Right? This is me actually just beginning to learn how to do this. Because as I said, this was never my forte. So basically, I know for a fact that our map from top to bottom takes about 40 minutes to traverse in a straight line with zero things in the way or any interactions, right? And that's just from top to bottom. If you have to go left to right, it's about the same again. Right, now the problem is, so wait a minute, right, we're gonna have a look at something. Right, I'm going to show you test map, right? So this is test map, okay? Now the interesting thing is, I'm now going to close this down, right? And then what we're going to do is open test map in 5.1, and you guys can tell me how it looks, because I think there's actually, it looks, I wouldn't say 10 times better or even 5 times better. I would say it looks better. Right, so this is the version that I got working. Now there's a lot of things not working in it, and one of the things is the maps, right? But as I said, I need to know how to transfer our maps over in a way that's going to work, right? Now, if you give me a list my colleague the other day said there's about 10,000 static meshes that need to pass across. Now, if I need to do that manually, and I know it's going to work, and I know that's the task at hand, I've got the patience to do that, right? I would probably do a couple of things to automate and help me, but if that needs done, I'll do it. If the cost benefit analysis says that at the end of the day we benefit because we've done it, then I'll do it. It's just one of them things. Right, now I have watched a couple of videos on the world partition thing in Unreal Engine 5, and it does seem like it's going to work a heck of a lot better for us, right? But the thing that is kind of screwy for us at the moment is this map thing, and how we convert the maps and submaps from the original to the other one. Now, when I was doing this, I was trying a couple of conversion tools, and I'll show you the problem with that, because although they worked, they kind of didn't. Okay, so we have all our maps, okay? Now, the interesting thing, first of all, is to have a look at the test map. Now, I have converted all the static meshes that can be converted to use nanite. So I did that earlier today, because that's basically I press a button and go away and leave it to do its thing. So that's been done. Now we don't, the other issue is we don't have any lighting, but I kind of understand that because I think that comes from an asset we're using, so I'm not entirely concerned about that. Whereas the test map, I'm pretty sure has got a couple of directional lights in it, which, so basically you can see, whereas the main maps were lit by dynamic weather. Right, so if there's any of you guys have any experience, or if you know how the old map system relates to the new map system, then let me know in the chat and join the Discord for a chat later on it, because as I said, I am not claiming to have any kind of knowledge of this at all, because it's just something that I've never dealt with before. So I'm on a learning curve with you guys on this one. And as I said, if you guys have got any experience on it, then you've got more experience than me. But any changes like this, as Sunbuster was saying earlier, I think it was, that any major change like this, you're going to have teething problems. It's the same with anything really, right? That we're going to have, well, I'm hoping it's not that long, but we're going to have X amount of time where we're going to be trying to get things back up and running as it was. and then fix other niggly issues. Right, it's the same with anything. If you change a major system like the crafting system, right, you might have a couple of days or whatever downtime because you're basically fixing the back end, but once you get it back up again, it will work better, or it will give you more, you know, expandability or more options to do what you want. And these things always take time in the background. And I think I've spent the last 3 days of these streams yapping away, because basically we've been sitting on a shader compiling or a loading or a doing something, and I apologise for that, but there's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. And it does give me a chance to go for a cigarette as well, so there's always that. So anyway, we are 15 subscribers short of the big 1k, so if you're out there and haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. And yeah. And the way that you guys can help in the chat is open a couple of browsers and start one of my playlists. Okay, because although we're nearly at the 1,000, we still need another 2,000 hours. And the only way I get watched hours is after the fact. You don't, not a lot of people don't realise this, but you don't get hours for live. So get yourself a couple of browser tabs and hit one or two of those playlists, and that would help me a great deal. And it looks like now would be a great time to go and have a cigarette, because this is still sitting here, but I know for a fact that as soon as I go for a cigarette, this is suddenly going to jump to 100, and then I'm going to look like an idiot. But I'm going to risk it. I'll be back in a second, guys, don't go anywhere. That would help a great deal, Sunbuster. Right, I told you. Told you. How long's that been up for? Right, but now you can see we've still got some shaders going, I think, because like our monsters are white, right? So there's still some shaders to be worked out, but it is going, and it doesn't look as good as it did last night, I'll tell you that, unless I press play or something. Right, the question is, can I press play? Okay, we've got day-night cycle. We'll cancel that, right? And let's see what the issue is. Now, in the first instance here, I would just probably disconnect these. Ah. Pin. Sunlight component. Okay. I'll tell you what. That looks like I can take that out and that out. I was worried there because these things are related to, if you noticed, they're actually related now. You guys probably can't see that very well again, so I'm going to try the widget refactoring again, except it's in a different place now. It's developer tools, isn't it? Right. So, okay. So there it's there, debug widget reflector. So it's in a different place, but we can still do it. We've got our application scale here. Right, this is me learning, guys. This is the first time I've really used Unreal Engine 5. Apart from in my basic tutorials, which is just basically the start map with absolutely nothing else. Right, we'll save all. Hey, Can't Eat Chips, how you doing, bud? Nice to see you again. Right, so my major worry there was that I know for this uses the C++ that I corrected last night, and my heart fell a bit when it see this? It's like I need to shut some of these down, but then it doesn't let me. Right, we'll shut some of these down so we can actually see what the hell we're doing. sort that. Right, event graph. Now this is the event here that we're interested in, and I'm pretty sure this is the update. Right, well it's no there, can't remember. Right, but there is definitely an update here. Somewhere. This is one of the things here. Update puddles. If we look at references, right, got event graph. That's on begin play, and that's on event tick. Doesn't really matter, right? But the issue here was that it uses the C++, right, which is this here, right? So I do a lot of the calculations right in here. There's a lot of places this uses calculations, right? And what I'd basically do is I transferred a lot of these calculations into C++ for better performance, right? Because those used a lot of nodes to do simple calculations. So yeah. Let me see. That's not it. Right, let's not dwell on that too much. And let's see what we actually get. Can you still use, I suppose we could just do this and show the FPS. I'm guessing this is going to take a minute for the first time. At least we're going to see what issues we're going to have on just the test map. So this will be interesting to say the least. What do you think, guys? Think it's going to crash? Let's have a poll. Crash or not? Yes or no? Aye, the cat of Caesar. Apparently we've got a lot of cats in today. We've got cat eats chips and the cat of Caesar. Oh, we've got a runny. We've got it running. It's doing something. It's preparing shaders.
It's halfway, it's nearly done. It's going to go for it. We've got a shader thing not working there. It's preparing shader 206. Otherwise, it's actually working. Colour me astounded. Huh, look at that. I can shoot stuff. Okay, so it's working, guys. I think it's just the lighting, right? But when I was looking at it last night, it did actually look better, right? Now let's have a look at, right, so it's still got shaders to load in. That's looking okay. I didn't expect that to look any different, to be honest. Right. And it is working well. We're up to 217 again, which is kind of awesome. Now here's a problem, right? I don't think this will work, right? It'll do the thing, but it won't light, because Cascade has been deprecated in this. And obviously we've still got shader issues here, because we've got 215 shaders to do. Right, and I don't think this is going to be another set of shaders it needs to do. Well, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Right, it shouldn't be doing anything with that Cascade particle system, but it is. You'll notice it's doing the light. And the funny thing is, in Unreal Engine 4, where it should have worked and done the light, it didn't. That's bizarre. Right, so that's alright. We can live with that for a second. Right, we are going to have to let it do its shaders, right? But in the meantime, it is working. Right, now if we press O and then O again, we get our little particle system there. And you can see that's lighting nicely. I'm going to escape that just now, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this a bit away, right? And then I'm going to drag this, I'm going to drag that down a bit, right? And in our settings here, how do I do the size? You know how it used to be the options here, where you could adjust the size? I guess it's that. Right, we can go with that, I suppose. It's not as good, is it? Yeah, I suppose it doesn't make any difference. Right, anyway, being pernickety and pretty much off topic. Right, so we obviously load the game up a lot faster now. Right, now if we do that, we get our particles. And our light. It's pretty cool. Right, so what can we say isn't working? Or is working? That's the question here. Everything seems to work. Right, now as far as the lighting goes, that obviously needs adjusted, but everything else is pretty good. We've obviously not got the sea because we haven't got the... See, this will be blank. Right, because the sea, we haven't got the oceanology thing. We need to get that. But once we get the oceanology asset installed for this, then we should be good. Right, now who in the chat has done any work on world partition stuff in Unreal Engine 5? Let me know, because I'm about to try and do some stuff and I'll show you how far I got, right? We're kind of locked on shaders again. Right, but you'll see, right, that basically it doesn't even show, by the way, out in the distance there it should be the sea, but obviously there's no sea because we haven't got the plugin installed. But as far as the rest of it goes, it does look kinda good. We can switch off that again. Alright. And I'm really just mucking about while the shaders get done. Look at the light, that's pretty good. Look. I'm not too keen on the fact that it does it with the snow. Right? I mean, the snow should stay white. Right? Even if it's sundown. But it's still pretty cool. And I'm liking the... Look at the fire. That's actually pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, it is a little bit over. I mean, there's a little bit more. I could fix that, right? I could fix that to not punt out as many particles, right? The ones at the top, but otherwise, I think that's looking pretty darn good. Right, now, if we do or switch this on again, right, I think that's looking pretty good. What do you guys think? There must be a light in there. Let's go and find the key. Key's over here somewhere. There it's there, right? We'll take the key. We'll open this door. Right, what's going on with this door? Must be a light in here somewhere. I've got, it's about 8 years old, believe it or not. There was actually a video on it. It's a i5 4698 overclocked 980. I've got two 980 Ti's, and the whole thing's water cooled. 16 gigabytes of RAM, SSD for my main drive, even though this is running off a D, which is just a standard. Back in the day it was a really, really powerful machine. These days, not so much. Right, yeah, there's a light there. Right, get that the hell out of there. Right, oh, I've still got 121 shaders to go. But yeah, this is actually working better than I thought. And by better than I thought, that means it's working at all. We can obviously end up, oh my god, did its weird shit. Right. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. The best way to do this here is to make this so it's about the right size. Right, so that's cool. Right, now in theory, if we pick up this key, right, as I said, I'm still flapping about while the shaders get done, right? If we flap about with this, right, when it gets dark, that shouldn't light up. Right, forget the grass grown inside, that'll all be sorted out, right? It's just, this is just a test map. This is actually nothing to do with the actual game, apart from working out mechanics. Right, now, has everybody seen the cooking? Right, how you can actually cook? Right, you can go from shooting a thing to cooking it and eating it. Right, so what you can do is you can shoot a pig. I think it's too easy to shoot things, by the way. Right. Oh. Oh. That's interesting. Right, so we can now cook pork, and these aren't shown, whatever they are, pork meat and something else. Right, so we didn't actually pick up anything else, right? So there's something that needs sorted out, right? We've got a little issue with inventory, which we didn't have before, right? You can see that that didn't go into the cooked pork. Right, So that's interesting. Oh. Well, that's good. That's not. Right, so we have got some issues which weren't in the original 4.26, but it was working. It did make the right thing. The only problem is it didn't take it away, right? And this shouldn't have been here, so I don't know what that is all about, but anyway. But now our door, you'll notice now it's all dark, right? Which is kind of what we wanted. It's kind of what we wanted, but not, because we can't bloody see now. Right, but I'm going to do my best to guess where things are, because I've done it that many times. Right, so we should be able to cook now, and we should be able to cook this. Right, so it did work. Okay, so we've got another issue there that we need to make sure that our tooltip is basically clamped on the right hand side. And we'll need to make sure that these are clamped on, well, that seems to be okay. So anyway, yeah, that's all working. So basically, you'll notice that our food is down. So if we go to our inventory, we click on that. Now, I think that's not going to have, that doesn't have a mesh, right? So that's kind of what I expected. But what we want to do is click use on that. And that's okay, I think. Because I don't think that's set up right. But again, we're going to need to have a look at it. Yeah, our hunger thing should be going up. Okay, so we have got a few issues, right? It isn't perfect. We've got inventory has been, something's happened with our inventory, that it's not quite right. We've got some things that we need to adjust. What I want to do is, when we go to the inventory and select this, okay, we've got a problem with our RT, right? Because it's not showing our item. In here, our mesh. So we're going to have to do something with that. Okay. What we do want to know is, we're going to give it a bit of a moment for the hunger to go down, and then we're going to click on that again. We know this one was working, right, in 4.27. So what we want to find out is if there's a problem here that's related to food in general, or if it's basically the particular items that we picked up earlier, like the pork chop and all that stuff, right? So what we're going to have to do, right, our hunger is at about, well, we'll give it a minute or two more, just so it makes it absolutely obvious. Right, well, what we could do is we could actually just eat this, right? We can press R, and there's that going up, right? Our hunger went up, so that's fine. So that we know that that item is working fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to allow this to continue, right? And then we're going to eat the item from the inventory and find out if it's the inventory action that's causing the problem, or if it's the actual food item itself, right? So I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. I'm going to let you look into the night and see the beautiful vistas, which aren't really beautiful vistas, but you can see this. And as I said, I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. So, if you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe. Check out the description for links to the Discord. You're welcome to join the Discord, my personal one and the game one, plus Patreon and my previous game on Steam, plus Kickstarter preview and website. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Don't go anywhere. Alright, we're back. Still doing shaders. Does look good though. It's pitch dark. Oh yeah, we're going to go to inventory, aren't we? And we're going to click on this. Oh, look, it's back. That must have been a shader thing. Right, so you can basically have a look at your shit. And if we use that, we should see our hunger going up, which it did. Which is fine. Right, so that's all working. It is bleeding dark though. So if we do that, we can light up a bit more with that. Right. As I said, I'm just kind of spitballing until we finish these shaders. Now, I'm going to escape that for now, right? Now, what I was looking at was, right, if we go G1, right, and this is a level, okay? Now, my question is, and if any of you guys can answer this, all the better, right? I'm going to show you a couple of things, right? This is the map. Okay? Now, what we don't want or what we do want is we want to load a submap into this, right? So the question is, how do you do that? Right? Now we've got world settings, right? And world partition setup. So in theory, this is right. Okay? But how do we load a submap into this? Right? So I know for a fact that this map here has been converted. Right? This is a map that I have managed to convert to 5.1. Right? But the problem is, it doesn't use the world partitioning system, which means that it doesn't go inside the main map, which is how I think it is supposed to work, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm probably are wrong. Right? So, as I said, correct me please if I'm wrong. Of how I understand it to be. As I said, I'm probably going to have to end up watching a video on how you set up the world in Unreal Engine 5 and then work it out for there, how I'm actually going to transfer these levels into the world partitioning map. Anyway. Anyone, any comments on in the chat about this? Anybody worked on this? Anyone? Or am I just going to have to go for this on my own? Here we go again with the loading shaders. Oh. Right. So you can see here that this is our converted map, right? You can also see here that this, what's that? And what, well, okay. So this was actually, I'm guessing the start point was in the persistent world. Right? But you'll notice in this, I don't even know if I want to do that. But what I did notice, I don't even know what that should be. You'll notice that it's got world partition none. Right? Now I have got a video here. And this isn't relevant. Right. If we go to, let's do that. So it's not that one, it's not that one, and it's not that one. Is it this one? Nope, not that one. Not that one. Is this what we do? Right, let's try this, okay? Well, actually, that's the wrong one. Where's the G1? Ah, that's not what we want. Right, let me try something. Right, so now this world partition. Right, levels. Right, okay. Right, that explains a lot. Right, now we're going to open YouTube here. We're going to let the adverts go. Right, now this says go to the world partition. Right, engine world partition, and you see this is out of date, right? Because there's now a button to do this, and this doesn't this doesn't exist. Enable world blah blah partition, right? Thing that does not exist anymore. Because if we look, I'll show you, right? If we go to our project settings, right? Right, Mord, word to the wise, right? Don't worry how long it takes you to do anything, right? Because the next time you do it, you'll do it in half the time. Once you get your flow going and you understand a few things, it'll not take you anywhere near as long. All you got to remember is I've been doing this for 3 to 4 years, right? On Unreal Engine alone, right? I've been programming for 40 years, right? So don't let it get you down. The thing is that you just haven't got the experience yet, and that will come with time. Right, so don't let it get you down. Right, so as I was saying here, right, this engine world partition does not have enable this crap anymore, right? So the video there, and this is a problem with a lot of the videos, is they're all out of date. They're all relating back to 5.0 when obviously they didn't have as many tools and things didn't work as well, etc, etc. And now we've got, what I want to do here, and I don't know how it works, is to add our submaps to this map. Right? Now, what I could do is create a new level. Right? And let's call it test sub. Right? And in fact, I'm going to delete that. Right? And what I'm going to do, as I said, I am completely just spitballing this. I have no idea what I'm doing. We're going to do new level. Right? Yeah, Mord, as I said, right, if you're new to Unreal Engine, you've got a lot to learn, right? But as you learn, you'll get better and better at things, and you'll understand things better, and you'll just move forward. So it'll be a slow slog to start with, because you don't understand anything, so everything will be confusing. But as you gradually put the pieces together, it'll all become a bit easier for you. And even the things that you don't understand, you'll pick up quicker, because you understand the other stuff that you've learned along the way. Right, I'm going to create this, right? Now, the question for me now is, how do I add this? Well, first of all, I'm going to save it, right? And we're going to call this test sub. Right? And if you're watching this and you think I'm doing well, by the way, I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing with this. This is one of, there's about 3 different things that I have very, very shallow knowledge of in Unreal Engine. This being one of them, the level creation stuff and level streaming and all that stuff. And in fact, in Unreal Engine 5, I know absolutely zero, right? I am just guessing at this point, right? Another one is materials. I can get by, but I'm no expert in that, and I wouldn't profess to be. And what was the other thing? Well, there's more than one other thing, to be honest. Animation, I'm shit at that. I don't know much about it. I can basically do enough to get by. Can you render in higher resolution with 5.1? I have no idea. I am just basically starting on 5.1. Right, now, I'm guessing that you're trying to render out a sequence. Am I right? That you're trying to render out a sequence or something? I have actually done that in 4.27, I think, right? Right, so we've got test sub, right? Now, how do you add a map to another map? That's my question. Or is that not how you do it in this? If anybody's got an answer out there, don't hesitate to say something, because as I said, I am very new to Unreal Engine 5.1 and I don't know anything about level streaming or level design from a top-down point of view, how you add maps to a level. I mean, from my basic understanding of it, when you load in the main map, which is, let's say in this case, G1, right, this is our main map, but how do we add the submaps? Right, now I would have thought, and this is what it kind of said to me, or at least from my knowledge of it, this feature is disabled when world partition. No, I wasn't talking about images, I was talking about a sequence, right? Where you can render out a sequence, which would be like a fly through or a bit of gameplay or something that follows basically a sequence. Right, I've got an example that maybe you would understand better. Now, I don't know how to do it. I'm guessing it's the same sort of thing in 5.1. I'm guessing that it is. But let me show you something I did in 4.27, I believe. Alright, let me show you. So I'm guessing you're talking about something like that. Right, where it's like a little vignette. Now, from that point of view, what you can do is you can go into the sequence and you can actually get it to render out. Right? Now, if I'm wrong, let me know. Right, but from what I remember, you basically go into the sequence that you've created. In this case, it was just like a camera dolly that went through the scene, and basically you can set the sequence to just render out into like a MP4 or whatever it is, I can't remember, right? But you can get it to render out as a separate file, right? And that's basically how you do cutscenes, right? So that you can render out the cutscene as an actual like MP4 or AVI or whatever it is you're going to use, and you can get it to do it from Unreal Engine. I'm guessing this is how they do it for cinematic stuff,
Like in design stuff, like if you're designing a car and you design it in Unreal Engine, you want the camera to fly by and blah blah blah, then that's how you do it, right? You just create a sequence where you're flying the camera around or whatever it is you're going to do. You're going to activate animations in the sequence. You're going to do all the stuff, switch off lights, switch on lights, whatever you're going to do, right? But then you tell the sequence to just render out directly to a media file, right? And then in the context of a game, that would become a cutscene, right? And basically what you would do is just get and play that media file, right? So if it doesn't work in 5.1, I would guess it probably is a bug. I mean, if you've got a previous version as well, like a 4.27, you could just render it out in that, right? But the problem is that your project, if you have to downgrade, don't go for that, because that's a nightmare, right? If it's just to do a sequence. I mean, the other way you could do it is you could just play the sequence and just get OBS or something to record it. I mean, you've got a couple of things. I mean, there's no way you're gonna want to, you know, output it in 8K, right? Probably, you know, the maximum you're gonna do is 4K, right? So if you've got a 4K monitor, then you could get OBS to record it in 4K. So you just go into your game, play it at full screen, get OBS, record as you're doing it, and then just basically edit it if your sequence thing doesn't work, right? But so what we got from this is to say that you basically don't set persistent levels, right? Like in 4.27, okay? So you had your persistent level, and it basically stored all the data that was going to be in every level or sub-level under that, right? And then you told it which sub-levels were then part of that persistent top level, and so on and so forth. And what I'm understanding for this is you don't have a persistent level in the same way, which suggests, or the bit I'm not understanding at the moment, and if anybody in the chat can tell me, I would appreciate it, why, apart from like a main menu and, for example, a test map, why would you have any more than one map? Or am I misunderstanding this? Is there a need for subparts of the map? Or in Unreal Engine 5, is there always only one map? Can anybody answer that in the chat, or are you just as clueless as I am on this? I mean, when I finish this stream today, I'm going to go and look, right? I'm going to go and find some videos on world partition and how you set it up, right? But I'm just asking you guys in the chat, because if any of you know offhand, you know, and can tell me the answer to this, then that would be great. So the question is there only one main map in Unreal Engine 5? Because it doesn't seem to me that you add subsequent maps to the main map in 5.1. Right, again, I could be wrong. I'm well prepared to be wrong. I just need the answer.
right? Because if that's the way it is, then these maps become completely useless, right? These maps basically are just data that needs to get passed to the main map in Unreal Engine 5, and I need to work on tools that extract the data from these maps, right? So basically what I'm saying here is that, for example, this map here, even though it's converted to Unreal Engine 5, it's actually useless to us, right? The only thing it can give us is information about the static meshes, their scale, well, basically their transform, and even at that, this foliage is going to have to be redone. Hi Mr. Spock, how are you? Right, so basically it looks to me like I'm going to have to get all the static meshes, right? Like, for example, this, right? And I'm going to have to output every single one of these with its transform. And then what I'm going to have to do is on the opposite end, I'm getting on fine. I'm just working on ways to export maps from 4.275, right, which is a bigger problem than people seem to describe, right? But what I'm going to have to do is export this, all the static meshes in this complete map, and then import them back into our main map in 5.1, right? So I'm going to have to create two tools to do it, two editor widgets to be export. Now that's going to have to possibly even be in C++, right? Because if I can't do it to a data table, right? Because you can't write to a data table in blueprints. So either I'm going to have to output to some other file, which I can't do because I've done it before, right? I can do it to a txt file or whatever. I can output to that. Now you can probably do that in blueprints, so that might be the way to go, but then I'll need to read it in. So I'm going to need an output utility coming out of 4.27, and then I'm going to need an input when it's coming into 5.1, right? But I don't want to do anything just yet until I understand exactly how the maps in 5.1 are supposed to be built, right? So until I know that, I can't really do anything, right? Because it might be a waste of work. Now, how we do stuff with the foliage, I'm not sure. I don't know if particular foliage can be output and then copied. I don't know. Well, funnily enough, maybe you can, because this instant foliage actor in fact, wait a minute. If I copy every single map, right, then I should be able to copy all of these meshes straight into the other map, in theory.
Okay, so I'm going to finish for just now, and I'm going to have a look at a couple of videos on how you basically generate a 5.1 open world map, how you're supposed to do it, right? That's what I need to know first, how you're supposed to do it, and how each of the submaps relate to each other, if in fact you have submaps, or if it's one big map, and because you're using a per actor instance, basically you're using one big map, and these things stream in and out depending on their transform, right? So if you've enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. I'm going to head now. If any of you want to contact me or have a chat or whatever, you can join my personal Discord, link in the description, along with our game Discord, Patreon, previous game on Steam, and all the other links. So don't hesitate to have a look at some of that stuff. Hit the like and subscribe. I'll see you in about 4 hours time. Bye bye for now.